possibly out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you be a boss. I did. I made a mistake. Hey, good morning. Dan Dakich here. Resplendent in my Indiana red. Why? Well, because, frankly, Indiana is taking on Ohio State in football, and we're only 40.5-point favorites. That's right. I said only. It could have been worse. I'm not sure in any league, anywhere, this time of season, I've ever seen a 40-point spread. And again, that's in league. I'm not saying this is like Nebraska back in the day, where Nebraska used to beat the living you-know-what out of people. No, in the preseason. This, ladies and gentlemen, is in conference where 2 years ago, everybody wrote that everybody wants to play, everybody, every time, everyone, every, always, all those kind of words for Tom Allen. Tom Allen's a friend of mine, and I'm wishing him great luck this weekend, but you'll see later on in the show, we talk about where Indiana football is. Before we get to the big show, happy Veterans Day to everyone. You know, if this were a call-in show, which my show is in the afternoon, we would be taking callers. We want to hear from veterans. We want to hear people say things like, man, I'm so proud of my dad or my son or my brother or my mother, my aunt, my cousin, whoever. Doesn't matter. We love hearing that. So if you're on Twitter and you would like to post pictures of people that, well, served, man, I'll probably retweet them for you over the course of the day because Veterans Day is special. These are the best of the best. These aren't the fake. These aren't the woke. These aren't the guys that make millions of dollars putting a little ball through a metal rim or pushing a ball across a line or make hundreds of dollars talking on TV. No, I never had the satchel to be a veteran. I didn't. No way. Those guys are tougher than tough. Those guys are stronger than strong. Look, I've always said I need air conditioning, a king-size bed, and my family. And guess what happens when you're out there serving? You don't get any of them. My father was a veteran. My father will tell you that he served on the shores of Lake Michigan. He did. He served on the shores of Lake Michigan. His job, among others, was to make sure no submarines came in to Chicago. True story. We used to make fun of him. We did. We made fun of him like, Dad, I think, and he's like, what are you talking about? He did a hell of a job. You ever hear of any submarine attacks in Chicago? No. That's right. So anyway, long story short, I can't thank you all enough. I continue to thank you all every day. I want to say to you, thank you. And by the way, isn't it amazing? If I were a veteran, I would look at the crap that we worry about, the crap that we talk about, he, him, they, them, whatever, and just shake my head. But you know what? They fought for freedom, and this is what our freedom has wrought. And that's a good thing. We can be ridiculous. We can be serious. We can be smart. We can be dumb. We can be woke. We can be liberal. We can be conservative. We can be all of those things because of our veterans. And honest to God, this happens, and I'm going to brag for a minute because, well, I like to. But when I see a police officer or if I see a veteran, somebody in uniform walking through an airport or something, I always buy them lunch. I always buy what they're buying. And they're always embarrassed by it, and they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. You know, I just do. It's a habit I started once I got divorced and started working at ESPN and was traveling more. I started that habit because I saw more. And I just thought it was the right thing to do. So if you get a chance, buy a vet lunch today, buy a cop, buy a EMT, buy a fireman breakfast or lunch. Also, speaking of woke, what could she possibly blame it on? Jemele Hill. Look, we all know that there are certain people, Bomani Jones, Jemele Hill, that are frankly made for Twitter. They're made for Twitter. They couldn't be more Twitter-centric. Their opinions are interesting on Twitter. Their opinions on TV, meaningless. Their opinions in books, meaningless. Podcasts and Twitter were made for Jemele Hill. Jemele Hill, I assume, will blame this on racists, but her new book ranks 2,961st on the sales charts. Not quite the bestseller that I'm assuming whoever was dumb enough to give her money. Now you're saying, Dan, you're gloating. I am because frankly, her rise, or whatever you want to call it, is based on lies. Everything is not racist. Sure, there's racism, but everything is not racist. It's just not. I'm sorry. You can get mad, glad, angry, or sad. But no. A book by a Karen yelling and screaming about everything being racist is not interesting to anybody. And you know what she will blame? Dun, 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 dun. She will blame, wait for it, racism on her book about everything being racist not selling. I ain't mad at you, Jamal. I met her. She was nice enough. But I got to tell you, I am not surprised. Now, maybe the book will climb. Maybe it's early. I don't know. And if it does, good. But it's coming. You know it's coming. Racism must be the reason for Jamel Hill's book not selling. We know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Don't at me about it, because that's what she is going to say. We got a massive show for you today. You want to win some money? I'll tell you what. Geoffery Records has been on fire. You ready for college football this weekend? Trey Wallace will have you covered. You ready for the NFL? Paul Kuharsky will have you covered as well. Speaking of the NFL, look, Atlanta was my sleeper team. A couple weeks ago, Atlanta and Carolina got it on. You remember the play. Long touchdown pass. DJ Moore flips his helmet off. No, not good. No. Penalty, back. Pinheiro misses, extra point, overtime. Here we go. Pinheiro misses a kick. Atlanta makes a kick. Atlanta wins. I'm thinking to myself, team of destiny. Team of destiny right here. Not so much. Yesterday they got belly whomped. They got smacked around. Look, I don't know what to tell you, but Christian McCaffrey gone. Foreman in. Christian McCaffrey gone. 186 yards. No, I lied. 130 yards rushing. Christian McCaffrey gone. 4.2 yards a carry. Christian McCaffrey gone. This guy Foreman just took it over. Running backs are interchangeable. I mean, you can make one out to be great. You can make one out to be awful. I don't care. But running backs are interchangeable. And don't at me. You Colts fans, you know what's going on this weekend? And we'll get into it more and more and more. You know what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. So Jeff Saturday is going to make his debut, and it's going to be fun. It is. It's not going to be a train wreck. If you didn't know Jeff Saturday was the coach of the Colts and had never coached, you'd probably say, it looks like an NFL game. But here's the interesting part of this. How about this? Darren Waller, out, injured reserve. Renfro, best third down receiver, out. Martinez, linebacker, out of the blue. Seriously, Blake Martinez just had 11 tackles. He was our leading tackler last week. He retired. Think about this. Think about you're going into your first game against a team. Man, it's hot under these lights. And you don't have their best weapon, which, of course, is Waller. He's a stud. The best third down receiver, and the best linebacker. Colts are back, baby, and Jeff Saturday is not messing around. Jeff Saturday has one of the 32 most coveted football jobs in America. Oh, what a country. And Jeff Saturday, as it sits right now, is going to play against a team that is going to be decimated. And oh, by the way, I want you to think about this. Do you remember this? Do you remember that the GM of the Colts, a man named Chris Ballard, was very, very smart. He was smarter than everybody. And he hired Josh McDaniels, the boy wonder from New England, who had a coaching stint at Denver that went badly. But you know what? He went back to New England, got cleansed, wiped it down, won a Super Bowl, and now he gets a second chance, the boy wonder. Where's the second chance? Indianapolis. That's right. You forget. Chris Ballard hired Josh McDaniels to be the Colts coach. Here's what McDaniels did. Took a little peek under the curtain. All right, Andrew Luck's going to retire. Nah, I ain't doing it. Went back. Chris Ballard, Colts GM. Rivalry's back on. Okay. Guess what happened? Long story. Here comes Frank Reich, and everybody said, this is the guy we wanted. This is the guy we should have gone the first time. How could he not be? Well, we found out. Can't coach blind turkeys to take a dump. And coaching blind turkeys to take a dump is not hard. Let me put it to you that way. It doesn't matter if a turkey can see. It doesn't matter if a turkey is blind. You're going to take a dump. But Frank Reich could not teach a blind turkey to take a dump. So guess what happens? He's out. Saturday in. Saturday's first game against the 2-6 Raiders, coached by who? Josh McDaniels. I was talking to Brett Musburger yesterday on my afternoon show. He goes, hey, Dan, McDaniels loses this one. He has an owner in Mark Davis that has had 2 or 3, depending on who you listen to, closed-door post-game meetings with McDaniels this year. I said, Brett, what happens if they lose here? You know what he said? If I'm McDaniels, I walk out the door, I lock it behind me, and I keep walking. You can't lose this one if you're McDaniels. Because not only are you on the hot seat for not being good enough, here's what people are going to say. So, Josh, let me understand this. Your team that you have had all year, OTAs, whatever, training camp, game, couldn't beat a team that stinks 3-5-1, got rid of a coach, brought in a coach that has never coached anything other than high school, and you lost to them in our own stadium? Now, I cannot explain to you, I cannot tell you how awful that would be. I can't even begin to tell you from a coaching perspective what a bad day McDaniels is going to have leading up to that game. The pucker factor is going to be off the chain, yo. But here we go. It's going to be fun. It is. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But you won't be able to tell the difference. Hell, these guys are professional coaches. They are. And Tate Frazier or Parker Frazier or Frazier Crane is going to be calling the plays for the Colts. He's never been anything other than a graduate assistant. Now put yourself in McDaniels' position if we lose. Oh, man. Oh, and Colts fans, this sets up perfectly, does it not? No, it's going to be good. It's going to be really, 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 really good and really interesting. I don't know if you saw this. I'm just spitballing here for a minute, but I saw this. The executive with Twitter is a young guy that, well, he had a chance. He had a chance to talk about and do something about Hunter Biden's laptop. Yoel Roth. Yoel Roth was actually Elon Musk's guy. He's out. He was a former head of trust and safety at Twitter. He's out. Now, this is a guy that Elon Musk had put a lot of faith in, but you couldn't. You seriously couldn't. Well, at the end of the day, he's out. Get rid of all of them. If you suppressed, if you slid, if you tilted, get them out. Get everybody out. He changed his bio. Did any of you ever do this? Did any of you ever, and I'm talking to you, Dylan, and I'm talking to you young guys out there, did any of you ever put out there, hey, my relationship status on Facebook? If you did, I want you to lean in here. I'm going to slap you. I'm going to slap you right in the head. Lean in. No adult male puts their relationship status on anything. None. Now, one thing I could do is teach a course on how to be a freaking man. Don't put your relationship on any freaking social media site. Don't. Did you see this? The members of SNL. The SNL writers are crabby. The SNL writers need a banky. The SNL writers need a safe space. The SNL writers have big, bad, mean. He's a meanie. Dave Chappelle coming in, arguably the funniest man in the world. We're told that some staff writers were so furious that the comedy superstar, who has made transphobic and homophobic jokes, oh my God, can you believe it? We're actually making fun. You know how many jokes get made about this head every day? You look like a thumb. You look like Bull from Night Court. You and Kuharsky could be the same person. I get them all day. I ain't offended. It's a joke. Who cares? Can you put that back up, please? Do you mind? I didn't get through it. I want to make fun of him more. Has been chosen to helm the iconic show. They're sitting out this episode. We're told some staff writers were so furious because Chappelle, who made transphobic and homophobic jokes. Apparently the actors aren't boycotting. Apparently the actors are just sitting this one out. Can you imagine? Man. See, I'm a guy, and again, you can say whatever you'd like about me, good, bad, happy, or sad, and I'm cool with all of it. But I like dirty jokes. I like jokes that offend normal people. I got no problem with it. One of my bucket list things was to always get on stage and tell a raunchy, filthy joke. I did it at a comedy club a few years ago for a friend of mine named Scott Long. I got the joke from Sylvie, actually, of Waddle and Sylvie. It was a good one. It brought down the house. It wasn't offensive. I took a joke at our boss, actually, on a thing for our radio station, and, man, that made national news. Paul Kuharsky, you ain't afraid of a good joke. How are you?
Daniel, I'm well. I hear a lot more dad jokes than anything at this stage of my life.
I hear a lot, like you and I look the same. That's offensive to me because I have always been, and I maintain and still am, a very handsome man.
Well, I take that the same way. If they're saying that you look like me, they're complimenting your good looks. I think you, I don't know, maybe you're a little bit more angular and scrunched up in this area.
Let me tell you something. I hate the fact that I look like this, Paul. I do. I don't even want to. Arthur Smith, you like Arthur Smith.
I came to terms
Smith?
with looking like this a long time ago. I mean, it's not like I have cancer. I have genetics that took away my hair, and I make the best of it. And I can get ready faster. I like Arthur Smith a lot. This argument would have been a lot better had he won the game last night against the brutal Carolina Panthers. But for the Falcons to be doing what they're doing, I think not enough people know the context here that they have $78 million of dead money this year. And I would challenge just about any coach in the league to be competitive, even in a horrific division, with $78 million blank on their roster. So I would look for the Falcons next year when they actually have money to spend in free agency and can start to do some things after these financial handcuffs. I think the Falcons are going to trend in a good direction.
You know, I was totally with you. In fact, I said this earlier a couple weeks ago. You know, I thought maybe this is kind of one of those teams of destiny. DJ Moore takes off his helmet. To the argument last night, let me ask you something. Everybody talks about running backs are interchangeable. Christian McCaffrey leaves, and all of a sudden, Deontay Foreman, he goes for 230. I mean, pretty good strategy over there on the sideline by Wilk. He got the guy that was hot to football.
Yeah, and Foreman, I mean, he finally got some money. He got $2 million to go over to Carolina from the Titans. He plugged in for Derrick Henry over here last year and was the lead guy and did a really effective job. He got cut by Houston. He got cut by Atlanta. You know, now Atlanta's found a guy. I don't even know how to pronounce his name yet. Algier, who stepped in for Patterson for a while there and is really good. These running backs off the street, so to speak, or undrafted guys are still being found. and it's one of the great values in the game, and it's one of the most fun things in the game. You got Pierce down in Houston now too. Finding running backs for nothing is a tremendous thing, and it's a big deal, right? Because you want to find them in fantasy also.
Paul, I want to go a bit off script here. What is your thought? I didn't talk to you about this. Jeff Saturday all of a sudden stepping in. What was your thought as you saw this week unfold here in Indy?
My thought was, how is he going to be able by Sunday to identify all 53 guys on the roster by name, position, and face, never minding the 16 guys on the practice squad? Like, legitimately, that's a difficult thing to do. And that's why we don't see anything like this ever happen. I sat down and tried to think of, like, what's the counter argument to everybody bashing this? And I couldn't think of what anybody was going to be able to come up with. He's a great guy. I know him a little bit. But I just don't see it. And the other thing I thought, never mind the three guys who were, the candidates, so to speak, for the head coaching job, but the other guys on the staff, the position coaches, I think they're empowered here. I don't see how Jeff Saturday isn't relying on the defensive back coaches or the tight end coach for information, because he can't know that much about those guys. And so he's got to go to those position coaches and ask for their opinions and use those opinions in what his application is for those people at those positions, until he gets to know those guys a little bit and familiarizes himself with their skill sets and what they can do and what they can't. But right now he's got to go to a smaller tree, and that smaller tree gives those coaches more power, not less.
It's a great point. Absolutely. I was interim coach Indiana basketball, and that's exactly right. I mean, hell, I was the last guy on the staff. I came in there. The guys had been there 2 or 3 years. I'd been there 2 months. And you do rely on those guys. That's absolutely right. How much heat on Josh McDaniels? You can't be as bad as they've been blowing these leads, lose Waller, lose Renfro, lose their linebacker Martinez to retirement. How much heat on McDaniels this week?
Yeah, and he could lose this game. I mean, I think that the simple strategy, Saturday's got to come in and simplify, right? And simplifying is finally running the ball at the kind of rate that the Colts should have been running the ball at. Pretty simple game plan. A lot of Jonathan Taylor, supplemental passing game, and playing defense against a team, like you said, that's stripped of a lot of its offensive talent that should be easier to defend. So it would be a hell of a story if Jeff Saturday, in his first game as the interim here, finds a way to win and beats the guy who left Irsay at the altar. Boy, there'd be a lot of good feeling there, masking a lot of what's the real story in Indianapolis.
All right, Deshaun Watson coming back soon. Give me your thoughts here.
Well, I'm just bracing myself for all of the parade. I don't know. It's not going to be a parade because it'll have plenty of context with it for what he did that landed him the suspension. But I think a lot of people are going to presume that he's going to march in and be excellent. They've got a lot of cold weather outdoor games, for one thing, and his home field obviously is that. He didn't play well in his chances in Cleveland, and he was very reluctant to go to Cleveland until he crossed it off the list until they circled back and said, no, we'll guarantee you this entire contract, which changed his mind. The Browns can still be in reasonably good position. Everybody, Dan, can be in reasonably good position the way the league's playing out so far. But I don't think he's going to come in and play particularly well. It's been a long, long time since he's been on the field and playing in meaningful games. And side workouts, last year in Houston and whatever he's allowed to do in his return now on the side, and then in the week or so of practice that he gets before the Browns travel to Houston in that weird numbered comeback, for their 11th game that just happens to be in Houston. I think he's going to flail, and it'll be a big story, but the big story is going to be about how what a rough comeback he has.
When you look at teams across the league, I mean, you're not a fan of the Saints. You think the Saints plan, and I totally agree, was ridiculous from the get-go.
I don't know it wasn't just Peter King picking them to the Super Bowl that was high on the Saints, and I guess people were looking at the division and the defense. But I don't know how anybody could be high on a team that's planning on Jameis Winston being their quarterback. Or, Andy Dalton looks like a good backup, but, time and time again, when he ends up with the reins, things go south. And I think there was too much, for people picking the Saints, too much of a acceptance that the transition of power from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen was going to be smooth. Dennis Allen is a failed head coach previously. The Saints did some nice player acquisition in the draft, but there's a lot going on there that people underaccounted for. And it seemed to, I don't know, what other team does a quarterback deficiency get ignored to the degree it seemed to get ignored for the Saints coming into the season? I didn't get that one at all, and I don't know how so many people missed on the Saints, who are especially bad in an especially bad division.
I'm totally with you. I couldn't believe in the preseason where I saw the Saints are this, the Saints are that. I'm thinking, wait a second, what do you got? I mean, seriously, what do you got? I mean, there was always a question about Kamara. You don't like Lamar Jackson? I love Lamar Jackson. How do you not like Lamar Jackson?
I don't like Lamar Jackson as much as most people like Lamar Jackson. I don't think Lamar Jackson is worth a Deshaun Watson contract, though I think he's going to get it. Why is he not? He's healthy again, it appears, after last season. So why isn't he playing at the level where we're talking about him with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in an MVP conversation? Dan, I'll throw the question back to you. Where is he in that? Why isn't he consistently at that level? Why is it more and more look like that giant season he had was the exception instead of the rule?
I always look at it a little bit differently. I look at it like, as a coach, would I want to prepare for this guy? And I think he's the hardest guy to prepare for. I also think this. I think he was bad in the fourth quarter early in the year, and they blew games, but I also think he's come out of that, and I think their whole team has come out of that. Halfway through, he is not in the MVP conversation, Paulie, but I'm curious to see what happens at the end, because he was bad. Look, let's be honest. He was 1 for 4, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. They blew fourth quarter leads, but that hadn't happened in a while. And as everybody always says, man, it's a marathon, and I'm not counting him out. I just think this. Rick Venturi calls them ambient players. I said he might be the most ambient player keeping you up at night, how to stop him, particularly late, assuming he's got that figured out, and it looks like he does.
I think he's tough to prepare for, no doubt. And we're going to hear a lot about him down the stretch here because the Ravens play no one. They've got nobody with a winning record left on their schedule except Cincinnati. But come playoff time, he might keep defensive coaches awake all week, but he's also proven that he can't win. I mean, they've won one game in the playoffs, if I'm remembering correctly, and I was at that one here at Nissan Stadium against the Titans. And there are these teams. Hutton talks about it a lot. If you can only win one way, you're going to have trouble in the playoffs. We see that in Nashville, and I think Baltimore is a team like that. You can figure out a way to slow Lamar Jackson down in the playoffs, and once you do that, you move on to the next game.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I certainly don't think he's been, betting on yourself. He hasn't been at the level of Aaron Judge. I mean, he hadn't been there where you bet on yourself and, it's a done deal. PK, you think both Brady and Rodgers are done?
I just don't see. I mean, it's already November 11th, Dan. We keep kind of saying, oh yeah, these teams with these quarterbacks can get on a run and go win 5 in a row. And I mean, we haven't seen any indication really. I know the Bucs just had a nice win and got charged up, but there's talk down there. He's talking about on the Jim Gray podcast, not enough effort. And then his coach is taking that and saying, no, it's not effort, it's execution. That sounds to me like a battle of whether it's coaches or players and some not infighting, but internal debate about the root cause of things. I mean, the Packers are just playing so horribly. I don't see where the spark is for either one of those teams to get on any kind of streak. And so the Bucs could show up in the playoffs, and Brady in the playoffs is not anything anybody wants to see. But I just don't feel like there's any potential for either of those teams to find any spark and get on any kind of a roll. And where it goes from here, I mean, Aaron Rodgers with the diva stuff, I can't see him going back to Green Bay, which seems like there's a lot of work to do to get back to being super competitive. And Brady's got the Fox contract waiting for him. He got divorced over this whole thing. Is he going to be motivated to come back to a bad team? Is he going to look for another team, or is he going to go to TV? I mean, I sure feel like, and I don't think this is a unique opinion at all, that the Tampa Bay situation's over for Tom, and the Green Bay situation is it's not Jordan Love time, but it's time for what's next.
I've had enough of Rodgers. I haven't had enough of Brady yet. I've had enough of Brady talking, but I've had enough of Rodgers. If I were Rodgers, I always go, if I was a guy's teammate, it'd be like, yeah, shut the hell up. Yeah, I mean, I know you're great, but this is a what have you done for me? The smugness, Paul. I don't like smug. I don't care. You can be whatever, but don't be smug. And the smugness of the guy, particularly to his teammates, I don't like it.
They've got to run the ball. They've got to run the ball more too. Like part of it. They
run hard.
Yeah, and the smugness is like, I got to throw it, drop back 35 times no matter what, because I'm going to salvage it that way. And that's actually not what's best for them right now.
World Cup's coming up. You love it, right?
I love it. I imagine you hate it.
No, I read that on our rundown here. No. No, God, no. No, I like it. I watched USA 8 years ago, big party. I'm there. Acting a fool?
All right.
Yeah,
well, let's teach the people. Let's teach the people. Big is better than small. So you're wearing an Indiana shirt. A lot of people where you are think Indiana is like the world. Oh, my God, what's going on here in Bloomington is so important. What's going on in Bloomington is not important at all in the scope of the world. You feel like the world rises and falls with what happens to the Hoosiers. It does not. But in the World Cup, countries take days off to mourn losses or celebrate victories. This is monumental. Not enough people get this. Your little small, like high school losing its championship thing is a flea on an elephant. The World Cup is the elephant. Get into it. It's the whole world. Like, you want to talk about the TV ratings for the NFL and how good they are. You got to put that in perspective with, like, literally the whole world is watching the World Cup. It's not like the World Series with the false name on it. This is actually the whole thing.
No, I agree. It's like the NFL. We won the world's championship. I always say, where else in the world are they playing NFL football? Or even, I got a buddy that's the all-time leading rusher in England. I'm like, well, okay, all right. Okay, I'm with you. Look, I got into it a few years ago doing a morning show in the summer on Sirius, and my two producers were into the Premier League. So what do you watch on Saturday morning in the summer? The Premier League's on, right? And we'd bet it and have a no. I'm into it. I think it's awesome. And frankly, there have been very few times in Indianapolis, our little city, where the entire city came together to watch an event. And I think it was eight and a half years ago, whatever it was, when Tim Howard was in goal and and the whole city was downtown with big screen TVs. You're exactly right. I ain't mad at the World Cup. I ain't mad at him at all.
Now, while we're talking about this, because there could be bosses watching, I'm free for the Black Friday U.S.-England game, but the other two U.S. games, the second half is during Outkick 360. With this being the biggest thing in the world and me being a soccer guy, U.S. soccer is my thing, I can't be on the air during these games. I've got to be watching this game. It's the biggest thing in the world, bigger even than my show. I must be watching the game. I can't be on the air. That's crazy.
Let me show you how you should do your show that day. You ready? Oh, yeah, Jonathan, yeah. Oh, yeah, good point, chat. Yeah. Oh, that's how.
I don't know how that'll
That's
play.
how you should be. That's 2 days. Paul, I can't
play
wait,
better
man.
with an empty seat and then my thorough report the next day on why we lost and failed and Berhalter.
That's right. We call it a bag of sand. On my show, we're like, Dan, a bag of sand could do a better show than you're doing right now. It was the Archie Miller when he was coaching at IU. We're like, would a bag of sand coach better than Archie Miller? Who would win more games? A bag of sand. So we have a bag of sand rule when I'm distracted. So there you go.
Dan, you notice my physique is improving, and I'm going right from here to something called Iron Tribe to go push some weight around to continue this physique improvement.
What are we going? Ass and abs? Bison tries? What are we
Whatever
doing
they
today?
tell me. Whatever they tell me. No, today's a lot of it's a Veterans Day tribute. So they concoct something that it includes Veterans Day related numbers. There are a lot of 11s. I'm not sure why 11 is important, but in about an hour, I'll be collapsing.
I started a thing as well. My physique is getting worse because I keep eating. But I got to tell you, last night I went to bed and I told my wife, I can't lift my arm up to brush my teeth. They killed me. They killed me. Like, oh, man. Thanks, Paulie.
Your dentist doesn't like that report. Thanks for having me, Dan. Look forward to the next time.
Yes, sir. That's Paul Kuharsky. Catch him, Outkick 360. Catch him for all your coverage of the World Cup as we move towards Black Friday. England, United States. It's going to be good. Like, I saw this on this sheet that said Dan doesn't like the World Cup. Nay, Nanook. I like Ted Lasso. I know who Henry Kane is. I watch Premier League every Saturday morning in the summer while I'm betting on it. You kidding me, Dylan? Stop it, Aaron. I like me some World Cup. I got some headlines when we come back. Hey, football season is in full swing. It's time to cash in on your favorite players with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Here's the deal. Simply pick two or more players and decide if they score more or less than their projections. The more players you pick, the more you can win, up to 10 times your money. All first-time users that deposit and use promo code Dakich will receive a 100% deposit bonus match up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100. Entries on Prize Picks can be made in seconds. They offer fast, safe withdrawals. Download it today. Don't forget to use promo code Dakich for a special welcome bonus. Hey, don't at me about the World Cup. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to study it. I'm going to know it. I'm going to bet it. I'm going to watch it. And if the United States with this Christian Pulisic kid does good, I'm going to be watching it like it's my job, which it might be. And all you guys that are executives at Fox, you don't have to worry about putting me on college basketball. Put me on the World Cup. I am all in on it. All right, we got a lot to get to today. You know you got a problem, okay? You know you got a serious problem. When there is a press conference and your attorney general, in this case, the attorney general of Washington, D.C., a man named Carl A. Racine, he shows up at a press conference and he's got boards. He's got boards, and those boards are about your malfeasance. Yesterday, they had dueling press conferences in Washington, D.C. They did. They had dueling press conference. On one side of town, Ron Rivera was talking about the game coming up. Nobody cared about that. On this side of town, Mr. Racine, Carl A. Racine, was discussing malfeasance. And that malfeasance pertained to guess who? That's right, Daniel Snyder. Daniel Snyder is being sued basically by the District of Columbia for colluding to deceive district residents, the heart of the Commanders fan base, about an investigation into toxic workplace culture. Now, Washington, Daniel Snyder's coming back and saying, what are you talking about? 2 years ago, you went at us, we cleaned it up. The crux of this is money. The crux of this is, look, here's the deal. We think you cooked the books. We think you lied to fans. We think you delayed getting refunds back, and in fact, in some parts, didn't pay refunds. There's a lot here. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is, you know, you ever see a guy do an ice sculpture or a sculpture of any kind? They chip away. That's what this is. Jimmy Irsay, chipping away. NFL owners, chipping away. This, chipping away. Now, this may be a big block. This may be a massive block. But what they are doing with Daniel Snyder is chipping away at a few things. One, his ability to lead. His ability to lead, the more you question it, Jimmy Irsay, here we go, the fans, letters to the editor, op-eds to the Post, the more you do that, the more you diminish him. Now, you're going to have a lawsuit. What's going to happen in a lawsuit? One of two things. One, they go to court. This isn't a court of law, just so you understand. This isn't like if something goes against Daniel Snyder, he's going to do time or probation or community service. That's not this. It's a civil suit. It's money. They want to hit him where you want to hit a guy like Daniel Snyder, right in the pocketbook. Look, they didn't get Capone for murder. They got Capone for tax evasion. The IRS got Capone. So that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to chip away at Daniel Snyder to the point where Daniel Snyder goes away. The interesting thing from Mr. Racine was depositions are going to be taken in federal offices, not on yachts. Remember last time Daniel Snyder was deposed, he stuck it up the you-know-what of law enforcement by being deposed, and he did it from his yacht. And you know, if it's Daniel Snyder with the money that guy's got, you know his yacht is big, luxurious, and I guarantee you, he showed all of those federal officers his yacht. So the truth of the matter is, this is a little bit serious, probably very serious if you're Daniel Snyder. Daniel Snyder has very good lawyers. They just won't, sit back, relax, and say, yeah, it's nothing. They'll fight it. They'll try to spin it. They'll try to do it in such a way that Daniel Snyder comes out of this not only not paying any money, but being able to hang on to his franchise. A little bit like what you saw in the midterms. You know, Biden was able to hang on and actually become maybe more empowered. Maybe a little bit more empowered than what he was from the get-go. We shall see what we shall see, but it's going to be very, very interesting. I want Jacob deGrom in Chicago with the Cubs. I want Jacob deGrom anywhere but Texas. Tell you why. Let me ask you a question. Let me just ask you a simple question. When has anybody left New York, Boston, LA, Chicago, gone to Texas and been any good. Texas used to have like an all-star lineup. Ivan Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, I think Rafael Palmeiro. They had all these guys. Nobody cared. I want people to care about Jacob deGrom. I want people to care when he pitched. I want Jacob deGrom on the Yankees, the Red Sox, or the Cubs. Because then I can watch Jacob deGrom. I'm closing my eyes right now. I cannot tell you one pitcher in the last 10 years with the Texas Rangers. Texas is where careers go to die. Seattle is where Robinson Cano's career went to die. I can name them for you if you'd like. Don't be stupid, Jacob deGrom. Danny Plesac, the best Major League Baseball analyst out there, came on our show and said deGrom reminds him of a combination of every great pitcher you've ever heard of Clemson. Pedro Martinez, Nolan Ryan, you name it, he's got it. Don't go to Texas. Don't be that stupid. Look at history. Nobody cares. They might sell out. Who cares? Does anybody really care other than the media about, and the media cares, particularly the Asian media, about Shohei Ohtani? No. Take Ohtani, put him with the Yankees. Guess what? He'll be at 50 doing things that Derek Jeter is doing. Derek Jeter went to Florida, had ownership. Every player wants to have ownership. Guess what happened to Derek Jeter? Couldn't get out of there fast enough. The minute he left the Miami Marlins, what happened? 30 for 30s. Can't swing a dead cat without seeing a Jeter commercial. Don't be stupid. I need to be the world's agent. I do. I need to be agent to everybody in the world, except for myself, because I screwed my own career up, but I don't care. Man, let me ask you a question. LeBron James is starting to become the actual king. He is. He's starting to become the actual king. Serious business. I don't know how we've let this happen. LeBron James says Kyrie Irving should play. Now, we have a couple tweets. Says he apologized. He should be able to play. I told you guys I don't believe in sharing hurtful information. I'll continue to be that way. But Kyrie apologized. He should be able to play. That's what I think. It's that simple. Help him learn, but he should be playing. What he's asked to do to get back on the court, I assume, is unfair. I don't care. The floor, I think, is excessive, in my opinion. Not the person that's being portrayed of him. Always back to my rehab. Anyways, back to my rehab session. Good. And people pay attention to this. Why? Let me ask you why. Because the league is built on stars. The league is built on superstars. Michael Jordan played and won. LeBron James plays, talks, wins. I don't get it. I ain't listening to him. I'm too old. Like, young guys can hang on LeBron James's words. But the truth of the matter is, I don't. Should Kyrie Irving be allowed to return to the court? I like the last one. Put Dakich in instead. 2.80. You were very, very smart. Of course Kyrie Irving should be put back on the court. Of course he should. Look, I didn't like what he said from a family perspective. My family, Jewish. My sister-in-law, Jewish. Nephews, nieces, Jewish. Tired of anti-Semitism. Tired of it. But he doesn't have the right to be an idiot. He does. We all have the right to be an idiot. And he's got to do all this training, all this crap. Hey, do the same thing for Joe Tsai. Joe Tsai, the owner, I mean, he has funded, I don't know, seems to me, at least when you read these things, allegedly he has been involved in funding murder. His company is not exactly the most stand-up, straight-laced company, but he's the owner. I guess we're supposed to say governor. I don't care. The truth of the matter is, I don't know that Kyrie Irving shouldn't play. I think he probably should. But how about professional athletes understand, speak out on social media, speak out on issues, but don't be an idiot. I guess I could learn that lesson myself. I don't know. But I am fascinated that that LeBron James is actually a voice that people listen to. I'm actually stunned by it. Like, really listen to. Like, when something happens, people are like, LeBron, aren't you going to speak? I don't know. All right. I guess we're supposed to listen to it. God bless us. 1970, horrific plane crash. Horrific. It happened at Marshall. There have been movies made of it. We Are Marshall. I've been to Marshall. I really like Marshall. I do. Marshall football unveils new black helmets, throwback logo, incredible throwback logo to honor the 75 members of their football family lost in the 1970 plane crash. Look, I have been there. I really like Huntington, West Virginia. Look at all that. That's the names of all of the players lost in a plane crash. I got to tell you, it brings chills to me. You know I get chills. I got chills right there. Marshall has an incredible football, basketball, sports play. It is incredible. I was dumb enough. I didn't take the Marshall basketball job before Billy Donovan did. I should have. I should have won, and then I should have been at Florida. But what are you going to do? Here I am, and I'm happy to be here. But Marshall, man, oh man, special place. Love what they're doing. Love the movie. Love the people there. Good for Marshall. I'm being totally serious about this. Went there, played there, had a great rivalry with a coach named White. And, man, that place understands who they are, what they have, and good for them honoring their 1970 folks that died so tragically. 75 lives lost. Salute to you, Marshall. Couple coaches on the hot seat. Look, I got to tell you, I hate to do this because the guy comes on with me every day, every week. But the Indiana folk here, as Paul said, it isn't that big a deal, right? It isn't like, man, it isn't like Ohio State where everybody's losing their mind on it. Everybody's going crazy. But at Indiana football a couple of years ago, we got all excited. We beat Michigan. We beat Penn State. We beat Wisconsin. First time in 1,000 years. But Indiana has won one Big Ten football game since then. And it came opening game this year, weirdly, against Illinois, who has been pretty daggone good. So Indiana wins. Everybody gets excited this year. They haven't won another Big Ten football game. You're thinking 2 years, one Big Ten wins. Got to put my man Tom Allen firmly on the hot seat. Now, here's the situation. Allen is owed $20 million on a buyout through 2023, so another calendar year. It's a lot of money at Indiana. It's a lot of money for a team or a school that doesn't really care about football. We act like we care. We have a great tailgate scene. Homecoming is fantastic. We don't really care. I'm just telling you. So $20 million, then you got to pay another guy. It's chaos. So I hate it. He's a 40.5-point underdog. I don't think they're going to win another game. They play Ohio State this weekend. Beat Purdue. Everything is right, but I don't know that is going to happen. So I got to put my man, Coach Allen, on the hot seat. And again, if I put you on the hot seat, it ain't great. Because I've already gotten two of you, Matt Rule and Frank Reich, fired. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get anybody fired. I want nobody fired. I want people to keep their jobs. I want everybody to be happy. But the truth of the matter is you got to win games. You know that. I know that. We all know that. So, Coach Allen, I hate to do it. You're on the hot seat. The other guy on the hot seat's a guy you may not even know. Usually the West Virginia football coach is an interesting guy. Usually the West Virginia football coach, Don Nehlen. Rich Rod, right? Dana Holgerson with the mullet. I had to look this up. I did. Neil Brown. Like, I'm a big fan of the state of West Virginia. Those of you that do or do not know, I was hired as the head coach of the University of West Virginia back in 2002, leaving Bowling Green to go there. Now, I get there and a lot of things happen, and it was time to leave. I left after 8 days because I don't put up with Bolshevik. But anyway, long story short, Neil Brown's in there. Now, he is in his fourth year. He's 12-20. He's 1-5 this year. He's never finished better than 6-4, and that was in his second year. That was the COVID year, which a lot of people feel like, hey, are we really counting that year? At Indiana we did, and we gave Tom Allen a massive raise. But Neil Brown is struggling. 12-20 in the league, 20-24 overall. Now, reason the overall record is interesting is because when you're at West Virginia or you're at a Power 5 school, you can play some teams that you're automatically going to beat. I don't know what's going to happen with Neil Brown, but I do know this. West Virginia, University of West Virginia, is an incredibly passionate place. They take sports serious. They want to win. They ain't tolerating losing. It's the only game in town, ladies and gentlemen, and particularly in football. Basketball, they got Bob Huggins there. He's a Hall of Famer. He ain't so much as even come close to win a conference title, but he's Huggy Bear. He's been to the Final Four 10, 12 years ago. That's enough. He's Huggy. He's one of ours. He's the man. He's the guy. He's the Gazda. I get it, and Huggins is great. But football, it ain't that easy. Football, it ain't that, hey, look, you're our guy. No. No, it ain't happening. You got to win. I hate to say it. There's nothing else I can tell you. You got to win. And here at 1-5, you're definitely on the hot seat when you're at West Virginia, or let's be honest, anywhere. I mean, 1-5 is 1-5. Major conferences put a lot of money into it. So Neil Brown, Tom Allen, let's get a win. Now, Tom Allen, if you get a win tomorrow, if you beat Ohio State, I'm going to tell you, hell, I'll just give him a lifetime contract. So he would go, this is how I think, right? I go from, hey, you're on the hot seat to, give him a lifetime contract. The hell? What are we messing around for? It's that simple. Why not? The standard isn't that high at Indiana. But tomorrow, people are looking at this as a butt whooping for Indiana. I'm looking at it as an opportunity. Run the ball, use the play clock, don't turn it over. Hell, don't even pass the ball. Run the ball 3 times. Fall down. I did see this. Ladies and gentlemen, I did see that West Virginia is only a 7-point dog to Oklahoma. When we get in our bet section, I'm taking Oklahoma today. I'm taking them tomorrow. I'm taking them the next day. And my toes are going to be tapping, even coming off a ridiculous loss to Baylor. I think Oklahoma will bounce back. Speaking of betting, speaking of college football, Trey Wallace is going to be with us coming up in a minute. We're going to talk all about college football. Nick Cannon, you know, remember we talked about this? He was having his 11th kid. He's now having his 12th. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Hutton from Outkick 360. If you couldn't catch the show yesterday, here's what you missed.
I think you got to look at the shortstop market. Dansby Swanson, you know, what's he going to do? Is he going to go to Chicago?
He's going to sign with Atlanta for pennies because they hypnotize these guys and they all take under market deals.
He's
Right,
going
John?
to get a timeshare.
But hey,
He's going to
that's
give a
a culture
timeshare in
thing,
Fort
right?
Lauderdale to offset the money he's not going to make with the Braves. They've got great real estate
and
packages
a
for all
permanent
their
ride in
players.
Orlando,
Amazing.
all the rides at Disney, right? Yeah, I love it.
Are the managers?
Then you look at Correa, right? Like, look at Correa. He turned down $35 million, you know, get 290 with 22 home runs. I can't imagine turning down $1 million, let alone 35. That's betting on yourself. He opts out of that. Obviously, he went to Minnesota to prove himself and try to get a bigger deal. So those two guys just kind of at the forefront. And there's other guys that are in that mix. You know, Trey or T. Turner, he's going to be right there in the middle. Mets want to put him in center field. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's going to be an exciting market. And the problem is with all that money going to those 4 guys, you just include Judge in that, it's going to trickle down. It's going to take time for all these guys to sign. The smart teams, the guys that are kind of like low market teams, they're going to start grabbing guys. Say, we want this guy, we'll pay a little bit over so you can grab him now so they know they have a security in some job somewhere going to spring training.
I think it plays out on Saturday. TCU playing at Texas. That's a big game. Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern time kickoff. And everything will play out. Like, I know fans and some fans of Tennessee were kind of like, wait a minute, why are we 5? Oregon 6. You're telling me the margin of victory or loss doesn't matter against Georgia? Like, everything's about to play out. Like, TCU's got to play Texas Saturday. They got to play BYU, Baylor. Then they got to play Iowa State. And then you look at Oregon. Oregon's got to play Washington. They got to play Utah. They're going to have a Pac-12 title game. like this stuff over the next 3 weeks will either keep Tennessee, in the discussion, or it's going to knock them out because somebody's going to go and run the table and go undefeated.
We're discussing the sports topics you care about from every angle. Catch me, Chad Withrow, and Paul Kuharsky each weekday afternoon, 3 to 6 Eastern, right here at Outkick.com. Stay with us on the Outkick Network.
All right, Trey Wallace is used to excellence because he covers the SEC. All right, he covers the SEC, so he sees the best of the best. But Trey Wallace, I am Indiana University's most knowledgeable person when it comes to basketball. Last night, Indiana University won over Bethune-Cookman 101-49. Back in the day, Trey Wallace, this is how good Indiana basketball was. Undefeated regular season 1975. Player of the year, Scott May, broke his wrist last game of the year. They got to the regional final, lost, came back, basically the same group, undefeated 1976, won the NCAA title. Last undefeated team in college basketball, 1976. So Trey Wallace, this is how good Indiana was. They had a promotion. If Indiana scored over 100 points and the opponent scored less than 50 in 1975, the local McDonald's gave free hamburgers to anybody that came in with a ticket. So, January 11th, 1975, Indiana 102, Iowa 49, free burgers. Now that's a dominant team. What would the equivalent of that be in football? This to that.
Oh my gosh, Dan, how you're going to set me up with that? Goodness gracious, what a look. I mean, that's one way to put it out there. I mean, that, and I love me some college basketball, by the way. Those Indiana teams, I used to follow them, and if I haven't seen it, I usually YouTube it, by the way. So I get where you're coming from with some of those teams, especially the ones that you're a part of. If we're looking at, I guess we can call it a dynasty or a team that kind of, dominates over these number of years, I think that it's been Alabama. I think I don't want to say the Alabama dynasty is not ending in any way possible. Greg McElroy has just been talking this week, I think, to fuel up the Alabama football team. But I think that overall, do we start to see a trend where, you remember how Clemson, was so good for so many years, and they still are good, but the conversation was all about Clemson. Well, now it's starting, it was Alabama, Clemson, and now we're starting to see maybe some new blood come into the picture a little bit. And I think the conversation is going to change too with the playoffs starting, Dan. But overall, I would say Alabama has been that spot for so many years. And they do some kind of giveaway in Tuscaloosa, I think, whenever they shut out a team or they blow out an opponent, beat them by so many points. So, look, Nick Saban has had that rolling for a number of years, Dan. And I don't know if they're giving away down there. Maybe some chips or, cold beer, maybe.
I go back to Nebraska when they were rolling people. I would go to Nebraska. One of the reasons came to my head is Indiana. I don't know that I've ever seen this. Keeping it in Indiana is a 40.5-point underdog to Ohio State. I mean, a league used to be like Nebraska would play, I don't know, maybe Kansas State, and it'd be like a 50-point. You know what I mean? But now college football has kind of evened itself a little bit, hasn't it? Like does Mississippi have a shot against Alabama?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they do. I think you're starting to see, and it's going to become even, I think the gap is going to close a little bit more once playoffs arrive, once NIL really kicks in. Like, you're going to see something soon. So when the transfer portal window opens at the end of November during that championship week for conferences, you're going to start seeing a lot of football teams stock up on talent. I think the money figures that are going to be flowing around out there are going to shock a lot of people. Like you thought it was already kind of crazy now. Wait till these players hit the transfer portal and see the amount of money they can get for NIL from another school. It's going to be a bidding war. And getting back to your point of closing the gap, that's how teams are going to do it. You know, you look at, Lane Kiffin and what he did in the transfer portal. He was able to get a starting quarterback and a starting running back. Jackson Dart, Zach Evans. Zach Evans has been kind of hurt. But he's the type of player that you want out of the portal. That's a big name splash. You can look across the country and find players like a Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison at USC, or, the list can go on and on. But I think you're going to start to see things close up a little bit. Like, there's always going to be the outliers that make a run towards the playoffs, or you're undefeated, like TCU right now. TCU is 7-0, and I'm not taking a shot at TCU in any way, but the Big 12's horrible this year. Oklahoma's bad. Texas is bad. By the way, they're about to be out the door here in 2 years and going to the Southeastern Conference. So, you're trying to find parity within the sport of college football. I just think the damn thing's going to get crazier over the next 2 years, and I'm all for it. But because teams are like, okay, we're going to spend this amount of money. We're going to make our team an all-star team immediately, rather than go get these kids, Dan, out of high school that might take a year or two to really get going in a program. Man, these transfer portal kids know what they're doing. They've been playing college ball, Dan.
I totally agree. In basketball, a lot of high school kids are being left by the wayside with all this because no one's paying attention to them. We'll get to you if we have a scholarship. Speaking of TCU, they're underdogs this week in Texas. Bijan Robinson, Quint Ewers. I don't know. I feel like TCU's going to get beat this weekend. Do you?
I don't like, and I've watched Texas and TCU a good amount this year. I think the line hits it pretty well, sitting at the -7 spot that they were at. I could see TCU getting beat this weekend because of how they play in the secondary and because of how Texas throws the football. I think that overall, I think Texas has top to bottom a better football team, but TCU's rolling at the right time. And maybe this is it for TCU. Like a fantastic run, 7-0, 8-0, and them being able to be in the conversation. But this doesn't feel like a Cincinnati team that makes a run to the playoffs type. Like, I feel like TCU is going to get beat either this week or next week, and I'm leaning towards this week in Austin, Texas. I think Sarkisian and them could use a massive win, and whether you want to call it massive or not, I don't care. You beat the number 4 team in the country, that is a big win. And I get that you're also a favorite in that game, but let's put all that aside. You got a number 4 team coming to your stadium. Winning that is big. So, I don't really care for the whole upset thing or TCU is going in there. TCU's fourth in the country. If they're fourth in the country, they should beat Texas on Saturday. I don't see it happening. I see the Longhorns getting the win, covering the spread.
I totally agree with you from both sides, but it's nice, and it's really good for Sarkisian that, well, he played Alabama really well, and he did, okay? But we've also seen other teams beat Alabama. It's great that he just belly-whomped Oklahoma, but I hate to say it this way, but this is kind of the game where you got to establish yourself as big brother. You know what I mean? We're the big program. You guys are a cute story. Good for you, but it's still Texas. Does that make sense?
Don't let TCU come in there and beat you up in Austin. No, I'm sorry. Look, at some point or the other, Texas has got to be like, damn, okay, we're Texas Longhorns. We're joining the Southeastern Conference in 2 years. I know the year hasn't gone so well, but we got to start making a point here. Like if TCU comes in there and wins that game under Sonny Dykes, and by the way, let's not forget either, a lot of people are kind of letting this fly underneath the radar. Gary Patterson is now a part of that Texas Longhorn staff, former TCU coach for so long. There's a little extra motivation for the Longhorns to win that game on Saturday. So I just feel like Texas has to say, okay, guys, we're not messing around anymore. We're not little brother in this situation. I don't care what you're ranked. They have to come out and establish their dominance. We'll see if that happens. TCU's found some way to win, but it's time for folks in Austin, Texas to stop messing around here. They're going to join the SEC and get boat raced every weekend.
I agree. Hey, look, you've got to get wins. Look, this game, I always look at it from a coaching perspective. There are some games that you got to win as a coach, establishing your program. And for Sarkisian, whatever happened in the past can go away. You gotta get this one. Is it crazy good, or expected what Brian Kelly is doing at LSU?
I would say good. I want to say expected because you look at LSU and you look at the talent that they have in that state. This was not – I'm trying to draw a comparison, and I'll just give you this one. This was not like, Josh Heupel walking into Tennessee. Brian Kelly had talent on that roster. He had a recruiting base in Louisiana. They found themselves a quarterback in Jaden Daniels, a transfer from Arizona State. Brian Kelly's done a hell of a job, man, but Brian Kelly is a winner. You expect things from Brian Kelly. I don't care what year he's in, how many games he's in. You expect Brian Kelly to win football games. And I think that what he's been able to do since getting the doors beat off of him by Tennessee, a month ago, just over a month ago, it's been pretty astonishing. And for them to beat Alabama the way that they did, and I think the biggest thing too, Dan, is he sacked up there at the end, man, and went for 2 points and said, you know what, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Let's get it over with. I think that said Brian Kelly was trying to make a point, and I think he made it crystal clear. LSU's not messing around, and who would have thought before the season LSU now can play in Atlanta in 3 weeks for the SEC championship if they just take care of business. So credit to the Tigers for doing what they're doing and Brian Kelly. I mean, that's a smart man. You know about him. You've followed him over the number of years, and it's been interesting to see.
One of my best friends, and certainly one of my longest time friends, was his roommate when they were both graduate assistants at Grand Valley State. And, I've known about Brian Kelly for, I don't even know how long. My buddy went out to Hollywood, didn't like coaching, went out, and he's a director out there. But I've known about Brian Kelly a long time, and I get it. I'm not saying he has done everything perfectly, and there are easy ways to criticize him, no question about it, 100%. In a personal way, too. I get all that, but when you're looking at coaching football, I think you're exactly right. You have expectations of a guy like Brian Kelly. I've never really talked to you about this, but I'm curious your thought. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders in the SEC or Deion Sanders, Florida State's playing better. The U isn't. They can't go through another coach at the U. Florida, I don't know. Where's Deion Sanders ultimately fit in?
Talk about a breath of fresh air. I mean, that's what Deion Sanders, he does it differently, man. And some people just can't get aboard that train, but I'm all about it. The way that he connects to his players, the way that he talks about his players, what he does for them at that program at Jackson State. When a lot of these kids coming in are, 2-3 stars that can't get rides at big schools or big scholarships, but then he's been able to poach, a couple massive 5 stars. I just feel like the attention that he has brought upon HBCU, but also Jackson State in general, man, I mean, you talk about free press. I mean, that was the best move Jackson State could have made when they hired Deion, because now, if you asked most avid college football fans around the country, where's Jackson State or who coaches Jackson State, they're going to know the answer to that. And I think, even if you asked a regular person about Deion Sanders, oh, well, he's that college football coach at that HBCU, right? So, he has established himself. So I say that to say this. Florida State just got too darn good, and I use the word good lightly. But Mike Norvell kind of turned things around a little bit when folks thought that this would be the perfect opportunity for Deion. There are 2 jobs right now that I look at for Deion Sanders, and I say he could be a fit in different ways. One would be Georgia Tech. And the only reason I say that is kind of the obvious. The Atlanta ties, being able to recruit to that area, hopping in the ACC, maybe changing the culture at Georgia Tech when it comes to football. I don't know how that would work. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes mess that's going on right now in Atlanta with Georgia Tech. But Auburn would be the one that stood out to me, because if they want to make a splash and if they want to get back to winning 8 games, 9 games in a year, 2 years, you go get Deion Sanders. And I think this is a guy, too, he's not moving on to the NFL, Dan, like he's a college guy. He's not dealing with his former, I want to say teammates, but he's not dealing with NFL players on a daily basis. He likes the college thing. Him going to Auburn, talk about a massive shakeup in the SEC. I mean, can you just imagine Deion across the field from Lane Kiffin or across the field from Nick Saban? I mean, it writes itself. And I don't think Auburn's going to end up going that way, because I think it's either a Lane Kiffin or a Hugh Freeze battle right here. But I would say if you're Auburn and you want to change the way that your program is looked at, because they've been in the gutter for a bit now, go hire Deion Sanders. Give him control. He'll show up at your booster events. He'll do what he has to do for the players. And by the way, he's got a great contract with Under Armour, who is Auburn's official apparel company. So, I mean, there's different things that would line up. But putting that all aside, Dan, I would love to see Deion Sanders in Auburn, because that would be fun for the SEC. And we can't forget 2 things. Expansion's coming, and the new TV contract is coming as well. And ESPN would love to have Deion Sanders on their television every Saturday.
You're damn right they would, and don't think that doesn't matter. Of course, absolutely. Hey, last question before I let you go. I think Georgia is playing terrific. They're a 16-point favorite at Mississippi State. Look, all antics aside, has Mike Leach done a good job there, great job there, and can they play even a little bit, well, within 16 points of Georgia?
The first question, I think Mike Leach has done as good of a job as he can at Mississippi State in Starkville, Mississippi. That's a tough place to win. I know what Dan Mullen did at Mississippi State and had them ranked, 1 Ole Miss was top 3 as well. Like, I get that. But to me, that was lightning in a bottle with Dak Prescott. I think Mike Leach is such a curious character that he fits in some weird way in Starkville. And I love the guy. I think he's fun to listen to. I think he knows what he's doing on offense. Does he get that every game? No, because the talent discrepancy between teams that he's playing. But you look at a game like Saturday, man, you got a quarterback like Will Rogers who can throw the football around. He's going to pass the ball like 50 times on Saturday against Georgia. If it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. But he's not going to sugarcoat things. And I think, Georgia seems like a really focused football team to me. And Kirby Smart has got them going in the right direction right now as we get towards the end of the season and playoff time. But I feel like this could be a game where Mississippi State is hanging in with Georgia, and hanging in can mean a lot of things. I'm talking like 10 points, 14 points, something like that. I don't think it's a blowout going to the fourth quarter. I think Mississippi State could be within striking distance, and then Georgia kind of pulls away at the end. But, it's all going to depend on how Georgia defends the pass, and Will Rogers is going to sling it. So bring it on. Bring on the craziness. And I think we're going to see probably 2 or 3 upsets on Saturday that could shake college football a little bit. So I'm not saying that's one of them, but I would keep close attention to Fayetteville, Arkansas tomorrow and see if the Razorbacks respond against LSU. I'm just saying.
Really? You got another one?
12 o'clock. Well, we already talked about TCU, Texas. I'm taking that one. Look out for South Carolina tomorrow night in Gainesville against Florida. I feel like that one's kind of an Anthony Richardson can go off type of game, or he can get intercepted 2 or 3 times and make life interesting for the Gamecocks. They're rolling. They're feeling themselves right now. The Gamecocks are. And I look at that game and think, okay, if there's a crazy little rivalry game that could go in one direction, Shane Beamer's going to do everything he can to beat Florida. So just keep an eye out on those games tomorrow.
You the man. You're bringing it. You bring it, my friend. Have a wonderful week. Thanks for the time. It's great.
We're not even in college basketball season yet, Dan. And I love that, buddy. So I can't wait to talk basketball with you down the road, man. I
know. We got a good one tonight. Michigan State and Gonzaga tonight. That's a good one. But I got to tell you, you guys have made me totally college football. Like, that's it. That's Trey Wallace. Follow him, Trey Wallace _ on Twitter. He's the best. I'm telling you, you want to follow the SEC, you want to follow college football, you follow Trey. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Look, Outkick has become one of the top 10 go-to, our most popular sports website. It's going to be in the top 5 soon. It's because of guys like Trey. The writing is unbelievable. They're fearless. They write what is real. You know what I mean? So there you go. I got one thing before we go to break. Again, I want to get into this. Nick Cannon, baby. Nick Cannon. We just talked about him having his 11th child. We did. Look at this. The human population is crossed 8 trillion. That's Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon got most of them. He's on baby number 12. What is he, a Kardashian? What are we doing here? Yeesh. He's still firing, baby. Number 12 is on the way, and we just talked about number 11. Man, I don't know. That dude has what we would refer to, I suppose, as super sperm. Didn't they write about that in a hip hop, a hibbity hibbity hip hip hop? You don't stop a rockin' to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump, you know what I mean? Rapper's delight. Didn't he talk about his super sperm? Nick Cannon, you go, baby, you go. Real quick, Geoffery Clark is going to join us. He is on fire on this show. He just wins. I've got 4 bets for you that I feel unbelievably good about. Not great, unbelievably great about. Also, you know where there's money to be made in gambling? True story. There's money to be made in golf. And my man, Geoffery Clark, in golf, is going to give you some bets. He's going to give you some bets in golf. Look at this. Plus 10,000, plus 10,000, plus 2,500, plus 2,500 in the Houston Open. And I got to tell you, he's done all the work for you. Now, it's a big, I'll give you one little hint. I got a parlay going, and it includes, it won last night. I took Memphis. It includes Cincinnati. I'm big on Cincinnati tonight. I am. What I do on the weekends, and it's changed my entire betting world around, is I've started taking parlays. Now, you lose some, but I got a little three-teamer going. 200 pays you 500. I got a little three-teamer going. I won last night on Memphis. They got it done against Tulsa. I got tonight Cincinnati over East Carolina. I think East Carolina is probably pretty good. And then a late-nighter, because I like my late-night parlays. I fall asleep, and then I wake up to a winner. I got Fresno. So I got plus 350, or excuse me, I already won with Memphis. They're asking me to pay out $238 on a $200 bet. I ain't doing that yet. Cincinnati tonight gives me something to watch. And then late night, LSU Fresno gives me something to watch. My toes are tapping. Don't at me, people. Yeah, that's what I said. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. Again, Indiana had, as the number one historian of Indiana basketball, Indiana had what we call a McDonald's game last night. Score over 100, hold the opponent to under 50, got you cheeseburgers at the local McDonald's in Bloomington in 1975. Now think about that promotion. Some places will give you a promotion that says, hey, look, score over 80, you get a French fry. Not Indiana. We don't mess around. At Indiana, it's one of those deals where we go, hey, you got to score over 100 and hold the opponent to under, I said it, under 50. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. That's dominating. That is not even close. A lot of you watching on the YouTube. The YouTube chat is pumping. It's a pumping. Let's see here. Who is on the YouTube chat? Have a good weekend. Outkick needs to quit being an Instagram hub and hire more writers to talk about sports. Well, you haven't paid attention then, big boy, because I'm telling you right now, we have the best. Dan, let's see here. What else you got? Sports or entertainment? We got it all for you. We got it all for you. Dan, I'm a big fan of WCC Hoops. Yeah. Is that where Alford is? I'm a big fan of Alford. A lot of people are, a lot of people aren't. But we got a couple hundred people watching on the YouTube chat. We say hello to all of you. We will be back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we will. We will be back with our friend Geoffery Records next. Hey, football season is in full swing. It's time to cash in on your favorite players with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Here's the deal. Simply pick two or more players and decide if they score more or less than their projections. The more players you pick, the more you can win, up to 10 times your money. All first-time users that deposit and use promo code Dakich will receive a 100% deposit bonus match up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100. Entries on Prize Picks can be made in seconds. They offer fast, safe withdrawals. Download it today. Don't forget to use promo code Dakich for a special welcome bonus.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. Check out Outkick.com for exclusive content and make sure you follow me on social media at Tommy Lahren. So from the moment it leaked the Supreme Court was rumored to overturn Roe v. Wade, I knew this could be the issue that screwed Republicans, and ding, 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 I wasn't wrong. Exit polling showed about 6 out of 10 voters said they were dissatisfied or angry about the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade, and about the same percentage said abortion should be legal. Nationally, over 30% of voters named inflation as the top issue, but here's the kicker. In Michigan and Pennsylvania, it was abortion that was issue numero uno. And guess what, Republicans? Whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, or somewhere in the middle, the fact of the matter is we as a party absolutely suck at messaging on this issue. And here's a reminder for those who forgot. I lean to the pro-choice side of things, but I do agree with the Supreme Court's decision to kick the question back down to the states where it belongs. See, I understand that that is what the Dobbs decision did, but guess what? A lot of Americans don't get it. They've bought into the very effective and very false fear propaganda the left has been peddling that abortion was made illegal, or that women who have a miscarriage or choose their own life before their unborn child will somehow be prosecuted and thrown in jail. That's a crock of crap. It's not what the Dobbs decision did or said, but some people are kind of stupid. Voters are uneducated. They listen to pop and TikTok stars and don't bother to even do basic baseline research, not even a freaking Google search or ask Siri. That's unfortunate, but newsflash, it's not changing because voters, especially the young ones, are getting dumber. So it's up to Republicans to take back the narrative and get our messaging through loud and clear. It is not helpful for Republicans to spout off about banning abortion. It's not. And if we want to win a presidential election for the rest of eternity, we better stop making that our battle cry. And if you think any differently, you're lying to yourself, however self-righteous it may sound in your own head. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern as I give you my hot takes and, of course, my final thoughts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's Friday. It is the last half hour of the show. So you know what that means. It's time to make that money. What? We're going to make that money. And our friend, Geoffery _Clark on Twitter, gambler to the stars, the man here on Outkick Bets. Let's get it going right now, big boy. I like what you like. I'm going first with you. First bet I'm looking at here on the big sheet, you like the Bears -2. I love the Bears -2 against the freaking Detroit Lions. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. It's turning into a public side, and the public is betting a Bears team, which isn't very good, but they're trending in the right direction. Justin Fields is just balling. Matt Eberflus, the first-year head coach of Chicago, has done a good job of just building the scheme around him and around his strengths. Hopefully Justin Fields develops as a pocket passer, but he is an absolute superstar running the ball and in the open field. It's also, I think it's a letdown. It's got to be a letdown spot for Detroit, right? They just beat the Green Bay Packers unimpressively 15-9. That was more about Green Bay choking than it was Detroit doing anything correct. But I feel like it's a letdown spot. Detroit has a bottom 5 run defense, and against the Chicago ground game and Justin Fields, I think they're going to get just trampled. Chicago's actually 3-0-1 against the number since the beginning of last season as the home favorite. They're covering by an average of 7 points per game in those spots. And Jared Goff is terrible in under 40-degree weather. The weather forecast is around 38, 39 degrees for Soldier Field. He was 1-4 against the number versus under Sean McVay, and 1-1 against the number under 40-degree and games under 40 degrees last season in Detroit. So fading Jared Goff and Detroit off of a win. So why do you like the Bears?
I think the Bears look much better, and I think the Bears look solid. Now, I don't buy that Justin Fields is all of a sudden the second coming of whoever. But, hey, look. Hey, you like the Rams giving 1.5 at home against Arizona. The Rams have lost a couple in a row, but you're digging this.
Yeah, it's a buy low spot, obviously. I mean, they're terrible right now. The defending Super Bowl champions have one of the worst offenses in the league. So I was writing this whole handicap with Matthew Stafford in the game. I was about to submit it to the editors, Dan, and then the line dropped from -3 to -1. And I was like, oh no. So I found out that Matt Stafford was added to the concussion protocol, and that was the reason for the line drop. But then I read through my analysis, and I didn't talk about Matthew Stafford at all in the analysis. This is all about the Rams defense and being able to make Arizona one-dimensional. Arizona can't run. They can't run block. And the Los Angeles Rams actually have like the best run defense in the league. They also have two awesome cornerbacks, most importantly, Jalen Ramsey to throw at DeAndre Hopkins. So they have the defense to stop Arizona. And I thought this was funny. The replacement for the Rams, John Wolford, his only other career start was in Week 17 in 2020 versus the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams were one win better than the Cardinals entering that game. And the Cardinals, the line dropped from Rams -3.5 to Rams -1 upon the quarterback change from Goff to John Wolford. Well, John Wolford and the Rams won that game 18-7 because the Rams defense just destroyed the Cardinals offense. And that's just a pattern in this matchup. McVay owns Kingsbury. He's 7-1 against the spread versus Kingsbury and their 8 meetings. So I'm going to go with the Rams. No one's going to be on it because of the Matthew Stafford injury and how they're trending, but that's how you kind of find value betting football.
All right. So I looked this up. I saw you are taking the Packers under 19.5, and I'm like, man, 5 straight losses, 22, 10, 21, 17, and 9 is all that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have been able to muster. It's unbelievable. I would have never thought this. Now, I think the Packers, the only chance to go over is to run the freaking ball once in a while. Their running backs run hard, but you like the under 19.5.
Yeah, they went under their team total in 7 of their 9 games this year, Dan. Green Bay's averaging only 17.1 points per game. And the only argument really for the Packers here, or for the over, is that Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay can't continue to be this bad. But why not? I mean, it was obvious that Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers needed Devontae Adams for their pass game. He has really no weapons to work with. Also, Green Bay's injury report is pretty crazy. They had 2 starting offensive linemen miss practice Wednesday, 2 wide receivers miss practice Wednesday. Romeo Doubs just isn't going to play in the game, and Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a thumb injury. Also, I think we have max motivation from the Dallas coaching staff. Obviously, Mike McCarthy was pushed out of Green Bay by Aaron Rodgers. He's doing a phenomenal job in Dallas, and Dallas defensive coordinator Dan Quinn is doing a hell of a job as the DC of the Cowboys. I still think he has a chip on his shoulder for making the Super Bowl with Atlanta, but also kind of being dragged at the end of his tenure. So he's got Dallas's defense playing at a top 5 level. I think the motivation is there for them to squash Green Bay, and I don't think Green Bay is going to really provide much resistance. And we saw how they played against a much better opponent, Buffalo. They tried to kill that clock, tried to run the ball, and only scored 17 points. So I think this game plays out pretty similarly. I like Dallas to win by double digits and hold Green Bay to under 20 points.
Hey, you like the Chargers +7. That's at San Francisco. I like that too.
Yeah, why do you like it?
Well, I like it because I think the Chargers are on the come. I was down on the Chargers, but I think the Chargers and Justin Herbert, I think they started slow, but now I think they have found their footing. And I think 7's a lot in the NFL. I think when you have a team that's playing pretty well, as the Chargers are, look, college, I don't think 7 is very much, but I would have thought that line was going to be somewhere over 3. You know, I thought maybe somewhere between 4 to 6, but I'll take 7 in the Chargers and Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert 7-3 against the number as a road underdog, 3-1 and prime time as a road underdog. Also, San Francisco kind of struggles in these spots in the Shanahan era. They're 6-10-1 against the number as home favorites of 3.5 or more, and 4-10 against the spread as favorites in prime time. Also, I think there's a lot of recency bias in this number, Dan. So San Francisco just acquired Christian McCaffrey. He looked awesome in San Francisco's last game, which was a 31-14 beatdown of the Rams. But Shanahan owns McVay, so I don't give the 49ers that much credit. Whereas LA, I think, is considered to be like struggling lately, but they've actually won 4 of the last 5 games. They only eked past Atlanta 17-14 last week, right? They chopped a 3-point closing line. But San Francisco got routed by Atlanta a couple weeks ago. They got routed by Kansas City a couple weeks ago. And LA covered against Kansas City earlier this year, and again, just beat Atlanta. So I know a lot of people excuse San Francisco's struggles a couple weeks ago as like they were dealing with injuries, but really no team is more ravaged by injuries than the Chargers. So I'm going to take the 7 points in a spot that the Chargers typically get up for, primetime road games and just as a road underdog. And also the strength of San Francisco's defense is their pass rush. Well, the Chargers actually have the lowest adjusted sack rate in the NFL. So if they give Herbert time to throw, regardless of the wide receiver situation, I think he's going to have success against this defense.
You're doing all the work for us, and I like it. I like this. You've given me 4 guys in the Houston Open. I love betting the golf. I do. I normally don't bet it until I see the 3rd round, then I bet the 4th round. But you like Matsuyama, Henley, Rose, and List. You see it right there.
Yeah. You're going to have to find some live action now. Obviously, the Houston Open teed off Thursday. I thought Matsuyama, according to my metrics, he just crushes this course or crushes similar courses. He had the number 1 strokes gained in comp courses that I looked at. Russell Henley is just coming off of a win, which we got, and I posted on Outkick.com. I gave out Russell Henley as a plus 4,500 shot last week at Mayakoba. He won that one. So the only argument that I had for not including Russell Henley into my picks this week was that he won last week. So I didn't want to ding him for making me money. He struggled through the first round, though, but I know golf isn't very sexy to a lot of people. It's my favorite sport to bet. I think it's so much more fun and there's so much more dead money out there than team sports. You know, you don't have the officiating aspect to kind of ruin or muddy the results. But I also took a flyer on Justin Rose. He's, a former major champion, has played really well at Augusta National, which is a comp course that I used in this handicap for the Houston Open. So I know he finished his first round in the top 10, kind of fell back a little bit after the afternoon schedule kicked in. But I like Rose to get inside the top 20 and possibly in the top 10 here. But I'm hoping me and you can connect for the Masters and the majors to talk about some golf.
Oh, yeah. Rose is -3. The leader, Finau, is -8. List -1. Even is what Matsuyama is. I'm going to give you one. I liked your pick with the Bears. I got to tell you, there's a couple games in college football that I really like. I like tonight. I'm going to take Cincinnati -4.5 at home against East Carolina. I'm going to take Clemson in a bounce back at home, even though Louisville's playing a lot better. And I'm going to take Georgia. I think Georgia -16 at Michigan State. I don't like giving those big numbers, particularly a number that is just over. I don't like giving 4 instead of 3. I don't like giving 16 or 15 instead of 14. But what do you think of my little slate right there? I love the Bears -2, 2.5. I love that bet. Love it.
The Georgia one stands out to me because Mike Leach uses the air raid system, right? He pretty much drops back like 40, 50 times a game, and if you're going to be a one-dimensional offense against that defense, they're gonna eat you up. So I like your look there, and I think it's a big number, so people are going to be kind of scared from it. Georgia's a huge road favorite coming off a major win in conference, so they're pretty much begging for Mississippi State money here. So I do not hate that look at all. And also, I've been high on Clemson for years now. They've made me a bunch of money since Dabo Swinney's kind of made that program a national powerhouse. So I like them in this bounce back spot. I don't have the specific records of how they do after a loss, but I like your pick directionally. I'll tell you that. All
right, my friend.
Man, I'm following both these picks. I was gonna say I'm following both these picks. You kill it for in college football, and you've made me some money. It's awesome. We got a shout out though.
You took my boys last
picks.
week. You took Wisconsin last week, didn't you?
Oh yeah, man. I'm telling you, my college football has stunk this year. I usually do really well in the college football playoff and the national championship, but regular season action is kind of touch and go for me. You've been just making me money. So I appreciate your work on the college football front, and I'm going to be in your DMs for the rest of the year asking you for picks. Can we shout out the sponsor?
What's that? Oh,
Can
there
we shout out the sponsor?
Hey, do you have 2 Prize Picks? Do you have Prize picks?
Yeah, I have actually 3 for the NFL this Sunday.
Give them to
me. Okay, great. I went over Kenneth Walker, 75.5 rushing yards. It's NFL's first ever Germany game. The Seahawks versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers' run defense has been sick the past 2 years, but has really regressed this year. Kenneth Walker, they're feeding him the ball. He took over for an injured Rashad Penny a few weeks ago and is averaging around 20 carries per game and around 100 yards per game. We know Pete Carroll likes to run the ball, and I think he's going to give Kenneth Walker, who's red hot, the ball a lot on Sunday. I'm also going with Jacoby Brissett, over 225 passing yards. I think Miami's going to put it on Cleveland. So I think the garbage time or Cleveland having to come from behind is going to help them. Also, he could be facing a lot of loaded boxes and getting a lot of one-on-one coverage because like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are absolute ballers. And we already talked about this at length, but I'm going under Aaron Rodgers' 240 passing yards because the Dallas defense is going to shut them down. That's why. So,
I agree. There's nothing positive out of Rodgers. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you.
Just going to say, we have an awesome promo available at Prize Picks. You can access it by putting in promo code OutKick1. You can receive 100% deposit of up to $100 match. So if you deposit $100, Prize Picks will match it and give you a free $100. Entries on Prize Picks can be made in seconds. Their withdrawals are safe and friendly, and it's actually a product that I use. I'm not even really a daily fantasy sports player. I'm a sports bettor, but it's a really like sleek, cool app. It's easy to use, and their payouts are legit and they're sick. So I recommend it. Use promo code OutKick, number 1, not spelled out. OutKick1. Good luck, buddy.
There you go. You don't need anything else for your weekend. My man just did all the work for you. He gave you a site. He told you how to win money, and he gave you a promo code. That's a hell of a guess right there. Thank you, Geoffery. There you go. That's what we do for you here. He came in. He did all the work. All right, let's review. He gave you the Bears -2.5. He gave you the Rams -1.5 under the Packers 19.5. And he gave you the Chargers against San Francisco. There's Jeff's picks right there, +7. He also gave you Matsuyama, Henley, Rose, and List. Now, the tournament, the Houston Open has started, so, go take a look and see what you like. My picks, I'm taking tonight. Now, I've got a parlay going, and it includes not 4.5. It just includes Cincinnati beating East Carolina, and I would give the 4.5 as well. Clemson -7 at home. Louisville's playing great. They're playing better, but Clemson just seems to bounce back in these situations. I see a 10-point win. I think Georgia's playing terrific. The only caveat on Georgia, the way that game went last week against Tennessee, you would have thought that Georgia would have won that game by 26, 28, 24. You know what I mean? It was a 14-point spread. So maybe Georgia isn't as dominant as I'm thinking, but I'm still going to take the 16. Mike Leach, their team came back. I watched them against Auburn. Cadillac Williams was losing his mind, but he did a great job bringing the Auburn Tigers back. They lost it in overtime. I got to tell you, I'm not that shot in the you-know-what with the job Mike Leach has done. He's done a good job. I shouldn't say that. But I am thinking, I don't know. And then I'm taking the Bears. That's my bet of the weekend. Like, I'm taking the Bears -2.5. Eberflus is a guy that everybody here loved. He's friends with my wife. They grew up together. He's supposedly, bringing it all back, the spirit, the toughness. Well, here's the deal. You had a tough loss last week if you're Chicago, right? You had a tough one against Miami. You're not that good. But Detroit stinks. I don't care if they won. They won because freaking Aaron Rodgers short-armed 2 passes in the end zone and looked like he was 110 years old. So don't at me. I'm taking the Bears. If everything goes south this week, weekend, that is my make it all back pick. The Bears, Jeff and I agree, which means 2 geniuses agree, which means you got to take them. All right, boys. Who is the end of the week woke-a-dope?
How to read them anymore. I hope you are uncertain as well. But overwhelming majority of the American people support the elements of my economic agenda. From rebuilding America's roads and bridges to lowering prescription drug costs to historic investment in tackling the climate crisis to making sure that large corporations begin to pay their fair share.
Look, I have hair. No, seriously. I have hair and I'm wearing a blue shirt. What, you don't believe it? I have hair. I have hair and I'm wearing a blue shirt. And most of America that is currently watching this show agrees with me. They know that I have hair. They know that I'm wearing a blue shirt. I mean, there really is no difference between what I just did and what he does. There's polls all over the place. 77% of Americans hate and don't trust his economic policies. But if you get up there and just say stuff, then you know what? Away you go. All right, I want to clear something up. I don't care who the president is. I got a lot of people saying, well, Dan, the stock market is rising. It rose big time yesterday. It's down a little bit today. Okay. Gas prices are coming down. No, they're not. No, they're not. Inflation, according to the main man here, is not going to be a problem. Inflation is we're not going to hear the word inflation. So why don't you like this president? Well, look, I got no problem. If the president, and I will say this to you, and I'm sure it ain't going to happen because it never happens with this guy. I've said this forever. I'll say it again. I don't care who the president is. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I don't vote straight ticket. I vote common sense. This show, 1,000% common sense. So I got guys saying, well, Dan, all this is happening. Would you support this president? Hey, look, absolutely. Bring gas prices down. Get the market going so our 401ks get filled up. Here's your problem with me, the border. Dan Pastorini was on here yesterday talking about the border, talking about how Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have never been down to the border, and what is going on down there is atrocious, and frankly, their policies are costing lives. Now, that's one of the things that I've said. I never want to hear the word inflation. I want to see the market going back to where it was, or at least rising, doing what it did. I'll give you, it was good during Obama. It was great during Trump. I'll give it to you. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I care if you're for us. That's what I care about, if you do right by us. And the people in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona are being inundated with illegal folks, as Dan Pastorini said. He's been down there. He's talked to them, that are raping and robbing and doing things that are unspeakable to innocent people just because we have an administration that has no interest or no desire or no guts to do anything about the border. And it's all for political reasons. As Dan Pastorini said yesterday, there are materials down there, build a wall. That's simple. But no, because that would make Donald Trump look good. Okay, let's just assume, this is a plea to you, Biden and Harris. Let's just assume that Trump, who I believe is out of the picture, he keeps acting like an idiot. He is going after DeSantis. He's going after different governors. Hell, he changed the name of one governor today to make it, quote, sound Chinese. I mean, what in the hell is this guy doing? Get him out of the picture. Fine. If he's out of the picture, will you then secure our border? Will you then listen to people like your border agents down there? Will you then listen to guys that have been there? Will you even visit? Because the policies that this government has, this administration have, are literally killing people. And Dan Pastorini's not the only guy saying that. Hell, a lot of people are saying that. Everybody that's been down there is saying that. Everybody that's been there says, hey, man, come on. You're killing people. People are being robbed, raped, all kind of stuff. And if you want to say it's not true, then God bless you. If you want to say these are dreamers, then God bless you. Then fine. But you're full of crap. And don't be full of crap. I don't even care if you're full of crap. Look, I know every politician is full of crap. Trump full of crap. Clinton, nobody more full of crap. Obama couldn't be more full of crap. The great whatever communicator. Reagan, full of crap. Jimmy Carter, full of crap. The whole Bush family, everybody, they're full of crap. So what? I don't care. Just do right by us. Do right by us. That's all I ask. I don't even care if you step out of the way. That would be doing right by us. But don't be negligent. Don't be negligent for politics. Well, you know, if we fix the border, then Trump will say, so what Trump says? Do what's right by us. Just assume Trump's out of the picture now. If that's been holding you back, do right by us. What a week we had here. Wow. And we're going to end it with some winners. We are. Cincinnati, -4.5 against East Carolina, if you're just joining us. Clemson, -7 at home against Louisville. Georgia, -16 on the road at Mississippi State, Mississippi State. And the Bears, -2.5 against the Lions. You see them right there. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Here's the deal. We're going to be back and better than ever on Monday. If you want more picks, go to my Twitter handle at Dan Dakich. It's very, very simple. If you want more of this, which we all want more of this, all you got to do is go to 107.5 The Fan. It's actually a perfect lead-in show. It is. It's a perfect lead-in show to Outkick 360. Outkick 360 comes on at 3 o'clock Eastern, so you get more of this from noon to 3 at 107.5 The Fan. We're going to talk about, Joe Thomas, one of our friends, came out and called it egregious, the hiring of Jeff Saturday. Hey, look, I don't care. I got one word for you, ladies and gentlemen. Just win, baby. That's my word. That's L. Davis. Just win, baby. And oh, by the way, I just want you to think for a second, if you're having a bad day on Sunday, just say Sunday, the alarm doesn't go off, you missed church, I don't know, your knee hurts, you look outside, it's raining, it's snowing. Just remember, if, and it's a big if the Colts beat the Raiders, you will not have a worse day than Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels will have the worst day of anybody if the Colts beat the Raiders. Book it, Dano. All right, hey, thanks to everybody. The YouTube chat pumping all week. Aaron and Ryan and Dylan, I cannot thank you enough. Corey, Cahaley, everybody at Outkick. We've moved into the top 10 nationally. We're going to move into the top 5. There will be a time when people get so fed up with the stupid wokeness and enjoy the smarts of Outkick that we, ladies and gentlemen, will be number one. That's the way it is trending. It's fearless, it's smart, it's informative, and frankly, it's entertaining. What more could you want? Noon to 3, I'll be on 107.5 The Fan. I hope every single person that watched this week, whether you liked it, whether you disliked it, has a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you on Monday, 9 to 11. Bye-bye.